All right. I decided to do the apples now. Just because I'm here, I got all the stuff out. Seems like the time to do it. You know, one of the things about this is time, right? Is, you know, getting the time to do it. This is, this can be time intensive. You know, depending on how much you have. If you don't have a whole lot, then no. But if you have a lot, it certainly can. This is kicking my butt. I guess I didn't do it all the way. Now, I have to say, there are winemakers, beer makers, cider makers that if they watch this, they're probably going, what is this guy doing? Right? I mean, he's just whacking things and throwing it in a jar and using whatever, you know, yeast is around. That's very true. I am doing that. You know, he didn't, you know, he's not sanitizing. I did actually wash that, sanitize that bottle, those jars. So it is done, but you know, like the spoon and stuff laying around. So I'm not recommending that you do anything the way I do it. I'm just sharing with you what I do. And I'll confess, there have been times when things didn't work out and I'm thinking, yeah, I probably should have sterilized that a little bit better or something I should have done a little bit differently. But I mean, that's been pretty dang rare that that's happened. Most of the time, they turn out just fine. Now I do sterilize, everything's cleaned, everything's washed. And when I go to put it in bottles to do that, you know, that second ferment, everything will be clean. You know, so it's not like I'm using dirty stuff. But, you know, again, I had some lavender fall in. Lavender could fall in the jar. I don't think I'd chase it. It's not gonna hurt anything. It'll do what it's gonna do, regardless. I mean, this is natural, right? This was discovered because it was just doing it by itself, sitting out in the woods somewhere. Somebody figured out if they drank it, they got all goofy. So you can cut these apples if you don't have a core. I just had to remember that I have this core. If you don't have one, just use your paring knife. There is no right or wrong way. Again, fermenters, cider makers, winemakers, oh my, you know, they're not gonna like what I'm about to say. There's no real right or wrong to this. I mean, there's better for sure, right? You know, I find the quarters, they'll ferment out real nicely. And so this works just fine. You know, if you're using your knife, don't worry about it. You're just trying to break it down so that you get more of the flavor, juices and flavor out of the apple. You also notice I'm not cutting off any bad spots because I mentioned these are the ones that have blemishes and different things. I'm not cutting any of that off. It's all just going right in the bucket. Because again, this stuff isn't going to be in our final product. Fix that. This isn't going to be in our final product. We're going to filter all of this out. Now, there's a caveat to that. This one brought it up. If there's some blatant, like here I missed this back end. So there's, you know, I don't know what it is. Maybe some dirt. Maybe it's just a bad spot. But it was like very apparent. Now that I'm going to trim off just a hair. Just anything really bad. Other than that, 90% of what's I'm not cutting around the bruises or blemishes. If it's dirt, if it's bugs, I'm gonna cut that out of there. So, you know, we're definitely wanting the seeds out. I really don't want any like stem material in there. You know, I want the fruit. So that's the kind of stuff. So these are not always perfectly shaped, so maybe they don't, maybe this thing doesn't work perfectly. So then I'll just trim some of that off. But most of the time, it works just fine. Here, I'll show you exactly, you know, this one here, I don't know if you can see it with the camera, but that one's got some little holes in it, brown spots. Nothing up inside, it's all skin level. Now, if I find worms, something like that, that's a little different story. Some of these smaller ones, I think it's the shape, they're pointed and the core doesn't get all the way down, so you gotta adjust things just a hair. But for the most part, it works pretty well. Actually, it's got a couple bruises. I was gonna say that was dang near an eater. Not quite though. That one's, yeah, that one had a little bit of a bad spot. So, take that off. Again, if it's really bad, I'm taking it off. But, for the most part, I ain't too worried about it. And this is really what people would have done years ago, is they would have taken the ones that they're not going to use for selling, baking, they would have used those, you know, more for wines and ciders. Because nothing went to waste, right? So, you know, that one's tricky because of the shape of the apple. Let's see if we can get it. Nope, missed that one. Just the shape was a little off on that one. So, you know, that's something with a lot of my fermentation, even my kombucha. My kombucha turns out really well. I do clean things. I do not buy any sterilizing, you know, liquids. I know that fermenters do, and I'm sure that works a lot better and a lot more consistently. But I'm not selling anything, right? And I'm using products here that I wouldn't otherwise use. These would just rot away on the ground, or, you know, whatever the deer didn't eat would just rot away on the ground. And so I'm not worried, you know, if a batch doesn't turn out exactly right, that's fine. And again, it doesn't happen all that often. I find it to be, hey, there's one for dozer. You like apples, doze? I'm also very messy. Don't worry about it. I've had very few batches not turn out. And so I don't worry about it. And, you know, in the end, if this didn't turn out, these are wild apples, and I'll use 2 cups of sugar and a half a thing of yeast. So, you know, what do I got? $3, $4 into it, maybe, if even that. I'm not too worried about it. Tell you what, we're almost there. I don't think we're gonna have more apples than we need. Yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna end it. Right there. Oh, good Lord, I put my measuring cup too far away. That's 1 cup. Gotta remember, I'm only using a half cupper here. I'm gonna give this one a little more horsepower. Cut that 2 actual full cups. These definitely float up. Ha! Ice cream truck is here. I love the ice cream truck. These can be very hard to mix up because of the larger chunks. So the trick is, like I was just doing there, if you find a spot where you've got a little wiggle room, just get a good rhythm going where you're moving that water around at the bottom. That will mix it up by itself. Important thing is we want to get that sugar mixed in. All right, some yeast. Now, in a lot of fermentation cases, I'm not going to want anything sitting above water. In this particular case, I'm going to be okay with that. We're going to get this out of there in a timely manner so that we don't have that problem. So again, we'll let it go a few days and then we won't worry about it. I'm going to leave a little breathing room. We're going to use a fermenting lid for this one just to keep everything contained. But yeah, that should be absolutely fine. Oh, except for that one. That one, he didn't want to ferment. All right. I've got quite a few apples left. I'll save those and do a smaller batch later. I'll probably do a wild ferment with these. This is going to sit for 4 or 5 days. I'm going to get the dehydrator on. I'm going to clear this up. So I just wanted to take a minute and show you what I'm doing with some of these wild fall, fermentations. Great way to use them. And a good way to make sure that nothing goes to waste. So I guess the moral of the story is, right, take advantage of this time of year. This is a fantastic time of year. There is so much bounty. If you have gardens, it's probably producing. Most of my stuff is winding down, but I am still getting a lot of beans out of there, a few tomatoes. I've got some carrots in there. The plum tree is full. The apple trees are full. The blackberries are still producing. There's a ton of bounty this time of year as we transition out of summer and start heading into fall. And we want to get this taken care of before the mushrooms come out, because that's a whole different game of fun. So, and if you're a fisherman right now, of course, there's a lot of great fishing here. There's salmon. Alaska, there'd be salmon. And I mean, just really anywhere, even in Minnesota. I think about the fall season being some phenomenal fishing. So filling that freezer up for those that hunt, deer hunting, rabbit hunting, bird hunting, all those things are starting to come into play in September. And so again, time to put meat in the freezer, put fruits and vegetables away, whether it's canning, whether it's, making ciders, dehydrating, freezing, and, really, again, we're not living off of all this, but we're providing a lot of wonderful little snacks and treats. So take advantage of it. It's soul relieving, I believe. And it's just a really great way to really embrace the outdoors and the bounty that is. Man, I love that bubbling. I don't know if you can see that. Let's bring it up close. I'm just gonna let it sit there for a second. Oh yeah, there you can see it. That is what we want. Now this one, get my glasses on for this one. I know it is bubbling. Oh yeah. It's a lot harder to see with the apples. You have to watch really carefully. It doesn't bubble as much as this. I don't know if it's probably something to do with the sugar content or just, you know, the fact that it's a harder fruit. But they are both, and you can see it up in the bubbler as well. They are both bubbling. And that's what we want. That means the fermentation is working. You could stop this right now. It's been going 3 days. So you could stop this. You could stop them both. And then you could bottle them and get some carbonation in them. You'd have a, you know, a real lightly alcoholic, you know, truthfully, there's probably not a lot of alcohol in here yet at 3 days. You'd have more of a natural cider, or a natural soda, I'm sorry. I would wager that. Probably more of a natural soda. So I'd bottle it, carbonate it in the fridge. Be wonderful. We're gonna let these go longer. I'm gonna let them go probably one more day. And then what I'm gonna do, 1 or 2 more days, and then what I'll do is I'll actually take the fruit out and I'll bottle this up, just the liquid, and we'll let that finish fermenting. Now, if you're gonna do cider, you're only gonna let it go, you know, I don't know, 2 or 3 more days. And then you'll bottle it and let it carbonate. You wanna do that while it's still fermenting, because that process will create, you know, it releases gas into those bottles and creates carbonation. If we wanted plum wine, I would bottle it and then put a bubbler on it or put a balloon on it, whatever you want to use, and let that go until it just stops, until it's completely done fermenting. Then you can rebottle it one more time, and you don't have to, but you can if you want to get some of the, you know, kind of filter it down a little bit, and then let that sit for about 6 months, you know, for like a plum wine. So the difference really is, you know, letting it go till it's completely done or stopping it while it's still bubbling between a cider and a wine. So we're gonna let these go a little longer. I just want to check in and show you the bubbles, because the bubbles are good. I'll see you on the next round. Well, good evening, everybody. I have been working hard at putting everything away. You know, the season of gathering continues. It has been probably a good week or more since I bottled up this homemade apple cider. It got time to settle a little bit. There's another bottle or two in the fridge. It will continue to settle. And you can see that down here at the bottom, that discoloration. This is getting clear up top. You can drink this at any point along the way. The longer it sits, the more it's going to settle out. I don't use anything to do that. I just let it happen naturally. Truthfully, it doesn't bother me. I'll drink it right away at the beginning. Again, it doesn't faze me. But this is the first sampling since it went in the fridge. You know, I tried it right away, and it was quite good. So, but this will be the first one after it sat for a few days. And I thought I'd bring you along for that journey. Oh, that's the noise you want right there. Here she comes. Oh, look at that fizz. Can you see that? Yeah. Beautiful carbonation. Beautiful. We'll cap that back up and keep that carbonation in there. That is fantastic. And there is our finished product. I am extremely pleased with the fizz that comes with. But it's all in the taste, right? Smells nice. You can definitely tell that it's a hard apple cider. It's not boozy, but you can tell. Oh man, that is fantastic. That is, man. So I like drier ciders. I don't like the super sweet. I love the fizz, and it came across as a little bit drier cider. Man, for a white wine lover would love this. Definitely a little more cider than a wine for sure, but it's dry enough to where someone who liked white wine, I think, would really enjoy this. This is fantastic. I have to say, this is probably one of the best I've ever made. I love it when these foraged products turn out like this. You know, these were wild apples. They were along, off the roadside a bit in a tree, and I just couldn't resist. So I rode the e-bike down and gathered them. Had way more than I could, that I could use. I did dry a bunch into apple chips with some cinnamon. That's what I've been vacuum sealing today and getting those put away, and they are amazing. But, the wild apples, they had a little more bite to them. They were a little more, not sour, but yeah, sour apple. They had a little bit to it. Some were sweet, some had that. They just had a little bite to them. And that and the cider worked out amazing. So, man, I cannot say enough how pleased I am with this. And, one thing I want to say is when you're making your own ciders, making your own wines, sodas, you're going to fail, right? I've failed many times. I've had a couple blow up in the pantry. That'll impress your partner when that happens, and makes it for a fun cleanup. But you learn some valuable lessons and learn to check it frequently. You'll have some fails, and that's okay. Dump them out, right? Most time when you make these apples were free. I used the e-bike, so I had no gas involved. I had, a couple cups of sugar and some water, really, and then some yeast. I bet the whole batch cost $3. If it's bad, dump it out. And if it's, if there's something weird in it, if you're not sure, dump it out. Doesn't matter. And sometimes you're going to get, sometimes it'll get too boozy, and sometimes it'll be too sweet. Don't give up. That's the key thing. I've been playing around with this now for a few years. I don't do it all the time, but have definitely been playing around with it for a while. And man, when you hit one that is perfect, and this is perfect, when you hit one like this, that's, I would call it resale quality. I would buy this at a poorhouse, right? It's a great feeling. And it's a great beverage to enjoy in the evening. Wow. So anyway, I'm glad you came along on this journey with me. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that it encourages you to try to ferment your own sodas, wines, ciders. It's a wonderful hobby. I thoroughly enjoy it. And I'm getting more and more into it the longer that I do it. Something about, when you forage your own food or grow your own food and then you produce a meal, that's a great feeling. When you grow or forage fruits and then create a beverage from them, whether it's alcoholic or not, that's a great feeling. And I swear enjoying it is even better. Now, you can do some fun sodas with this, and I might do one, and we'll do a video on that. But I've got some great herbs like sage, rosemary, thyme. I've got curry, which wouldn't work for that, but well, maybe it would. I don't know. But I've got some great herbs, so I'm going to probably play around with maybe a soda, maybe some spruce tip and sage or something like that. And we'll play around with that idea. But for now, I'm going to enjoy this amazing homemade, wild harvested apple cider. And the next time I see you, hopefully, I'm out doing something wild.